Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for today's session. I am Shubhangi and I'm part of the branding and communications team at An Academy. For those of you who know a little bit about and for those of you who do not, let me talk a little bit about An and what is it that we do at An here. So, An Academy is the brainchild of Dr. Jitin Chadda, who's also the founder and CEO of Indian Institute of Art and Design, which is a brick and mortar design school based out of New Delhi. Okla. And Academy actually comes from that design pedigree of imparting design education for over a decade. But we offer short professional courses in the realm of graphic design, interior design, and UI UX design. Most of these are part-time courses. There's one full-time course in graphic design. Other than that, we usually offer part-time courses, which start from 5 months and go as long as 14 months. But these courses are all delivered in an online interactive fashion. So think of a design school or a design studio that you find in a design school. You get that environment, all of that just online. All of the curriculum that we have in these courses are designed by people who are actually practicing in the industry. So you get very latest knowledge, relevant knowledge of tools, of trends, of things that you should be working on. As I mentioned, all of these classes are live and interactive. So how you can interact in a class, in a design studio, in a design classroom. That mode of learning is also what you get at and not only is the curriculum designed by people who are working in the industry, the courses are also taught by people who are working in the industry. We also focus more on design principles than just learning software because design learning goes beyond software learning. You can learn software, but what is it that you will use those software for to design what? That is what you learn at and you also with the curriculum you also work on multiple projects that sort of emulate challenges that you'll find in real life. um, and those are the kind of challenges you work on, so when you hit the ground running you're already fully prepared with what is it that you will sort of encounter in the design industry, in the field. And then you graduate and all of these projects actually culminate into a market ready portfolio. And we also offer job guarantee on some courses because we are so sure of the quality of education that we provided and that we offer job guarantee on select courses. The caveat is that you also meet your minimum attendance and GPA efforts. Um, we've had 1,200 plus learners, we have 50 plus mentors, and 200 plus hiring partners. And we are rated 4.6 on Google. You can check all of these things out for yourself. That is all about, and but to talk about what is it that we are doing today. Uh, so, and at and we have this one. Thing that we want to talk about myriad perspectives of design. So we invite people from the design industry to sort of share their knowledge and like talk to our learners about what is it that is going on in the industry, what is it that they can learn from their practice, etc. And today we're joined by Zainab, who's also a dear friend and uh, a person who works in the interior design industry. Before I hand over to Zainab, I would like to introduce Zainab with some words. Zainab is an interior designer and senior project lead at Studio Lotus. Uh, she has a keen eye for detail and a passion for crafting spaces that inspire. Zainab brings designs to life with culture, craft, elegance, and precision. Her expertise and dedication have earned her a reputation in the interior design industry, and her work continues to shape the world of interior design. With that, I will hand it over to Zainab. Zainab, please take over.
Thank you for the introduction, Shubhangi. I'll just share my screen and tell me if you can see the screen.
Yep, it's visible.
Okay. So thank you for the introduction. I will be presenting the this idea of reimagining craft in the modern interior context. And before I start that, I would like to talk about a little about myself, where I am. My name is Zainab Zaidi, like Shubhangi told, and I have a degree in architecture. I did my bachelor's in architecture from Jamia. Then I worked for a year as an architect, and then I shifted to interior designing because that the scale was something that I really liked, and the turnaround of the project was much more faster. So that was something that the whole process would keep me on my toes, and it was a slight departure from architecture, but mostly I work on farmhouses. I work on a lot of hospitality projects. I have been working with Studio Lotus for the past 5 years now. And in the last 5 years, I've worked on hospitality, I've worked on clubhouses, some residential projects. Yeah, I will start with the presentation. So, here we are, I think, discussing about craft. So I would like to start with what, why, and how of craft, and like what basically a craft is. So if you Google, you will get a craft is a form of skilled manual work that involves creating items by hand, often using traditional techniques passed down through generations. So, I mean, this is something that we all know, and India offers a variety of crafts. So, there is a lot of craft that involves textiles, there is different types of wood carving across India. There is a lot of metal work that happens in India, a lot of stone work that you see, paintings and ceramic works like across India. Just the techniques might change, the material might change, but the crafts is something that is truly imbibed in the fabric of India. And coming to the second question, which was why. So, why is it important to bring craft in the spaces? So, well, I think we all breathe and live in spaces that are beautifully crafted. So whether it's a street, it's a entrance doorway to a space, or the spaces we live in, the clothes we wear, the food we eat, all those have some nuances of crafts that you see, and it is something that comes so naturally to us that sometimes we are not aware of it as well. So like something as simple as a thali, I feel, is such a crafted piece of object that we can definitely use to layer our spaces in a very different and unique way. So this is just an image of India, where uh, each state has a different textile to offer. So there is Banarsi sari in, there is Aipan in Kolkata, there is Kantha in Kolkata, Tussar silk, there's Gond painting in different in Maharashtra. There is Gharwali art, sort of artwork that is coming in the regions of Himachal Pradesh. There's a lot of craft that you'll see in Kashmir, Maharashtra. So throughout India, you see all these layers, beautiful layers of craft coming in. Coming to the third question of how to layer spaces with craft. And before we dive into that, I think it is important to understand what India truly offers when it comes to craft. And I have listed a few crafts below. And this is one of the books that I really use when I start working on a concept for a project, which is called Handmade in India. It has beautifully documented all the crafts that each region has to offer, and it has almost documented around 500 crafts that we have. And I would really recommend this. It's a nice coffee table book, and this is my go-to. I call this my Bible before I begin my work on any of the projects. So, starting with the textile, so Rajasthan has to offer a lot of crafts that you see in the textile. So there is Leheria. People wear saris. That's the more traditional form of craft that you will see. There's block printing, so you'll see it in cushions, they'll see it in suits, saris, handbags. There's applique work, so you have a lot of bed sheets. Again, it can be used in curtains. Rug making is also an integral part of Indian craft, and across the regions, the motifs would change, the fabric would change. So in South, you have sisal, which is sort of a jute weaving, and then towards the north, again, it's a type of sisal, but the motifs and all would slightly change. And then also, what is interesting is that the as the topography changes, we also share a lot of crafts with the neighboring. So neighboring countries like Nepal has a lot of influence on India, and we share crafts across that region. We have a lot of elements that we get from Bhutan, from Bangladesh. Then looking at woodwork, so that the most common form of woodwork is the carving that you see. We have different kind of woods where we use it in furniture, on doorways. Architecturally, also we see a lot of elements that have wooden carving. Then what we really like is this one of Channapatna is those toys. I'm sure you guys must have used when we were kids, we used to have these toys to play. So those are just hand painted wooden blocks, which I used to play with them. Then there's a lot of wooden carving, inlay work. There is bone inlay, which is prominent in India, and then wooden puppetry making is also some sort of an artwork that I see across India. There are different forms of puppetry, that storytelling happening, and then just the craft changes, but the style remains sort of similar. Metalwork, we have Bidri, which is very popular in Hyderabad. There is Dhokra. We work extensively with copper vessels. You will see that in your homes, in a lot of restaurants, and you can layer these spaces, all these spaces with these sort of an object. There's enamel painting, which is done on metal. Is very intricate handwork that you see in a lot of places, and such crafts could be used to design a lamp. It can be used to design a furniture piece. And these are more sort of traditional ways of using the crafts. There is terracotta artwork, there's terracotta pottery that's very popular in India across. We use pots for drinking water. There is blue pottery that happens in Jaipur, and then there is kavda sort of pottery, which has on terracotta they do painting. Uh, then there's a lot of stone and mirror work that we see. Tikris, again, popular in Rajasthan, where they use mirror to create very nice and interesting surfaces on the wall. It is traditionally it is also done on ceilings, and if you see older palaces, they would use candles to reflect light through the thickry work that they have done in spaces. You see marble inlay in Taj Mahal, and of course in furniture pieces, a lot of table surfaces have marble inlay as a technique, and then there is stone carving. Again, architecture we have. Rajasthan is entirely built out of stone and stone carving. Then painting, there's miniature painting that you see in a lot of Rajputs and Mughal era. Then truck painting is something that I really, really like. You see it across trucks, and it's such an interesting form of art that you see as you move through. And there's Ipan and Alpana. So Ipan is also one form where they use a red paint, and they use their hand to paint on the floor. It's called Ipan and Alpna. Different region has different vocabulary for it, but it's a very common gesture that you see. Rangoli is also a similar, and in South they have a similar sort of a artwork, but the nomenclature is different. Then Gond is prominent in Maharashtra. So again, how do I approach craft through a different lens is very important, because what all the crafts that I've shown you earlier are more traditional forms of craft that you see. And what will actually elevate this space is how how differently you have used that craft in your spaces. So for me, I've broken down my process into four steps, which is understanding craft, which is very important, that you need to understand your limitation of the craft and to what extent you can explore it and what's the medium. All of that is very important when you begin working on using a craft in a space. Then second is understanding the context. So I do feel that it is very important to respect the context. So if I'm building something in Delhi, for say, so I would be mindful of the craft that is native to the region. So it has a value, and it also has some sort of a presence and nostalgia that it will add to the space. Then also defining a design direction sort of helps. So if you're designing a space, it is important what's the design direction for the space. Is it modern? Is it contemporary? Is it traditional? And then that will sort of give you a hint in which direction your layering of craft should be planned in. There is, of course, scale of intervention is also very important. And I'll show you different ways in which we have used the scale is what is actually changing the craft in this space. So this is one of the projects that I worked on with Studio Lotus. It's a hospitality project. It was in Kolkata. It's a build project, and over there we use textile as a story to weave the thread in the entire hotel. And I'll walk you through and show you some of the images of the project and how we've used and layered that space with craft. So Jamdani sari is widely used in Kolkata and West Bengal, and it sari is basically um, made out of cotton, and then it has these motifs on it. So this is actually a slightly modern interpretation of a Jamdani sari, but you get a variety of Jamdani saris and the motifs and patterns across West Bengal, and we use that as a base for one of the feature wall in the project. So what we did was first setting up the context, given that we knew that the project was in Kolkata. We studied about various crafts that were coming into that region, and then we picked up Jamdani as one of the craft, and then we studied what exactly Jamdani is, how when did it originate, what are the various motifs that the sari has to offer, because most of the textile have some motif that they sort of over the years they have sort of worked on and have as a base. So we use that. So we sort of extrapolated these motifs that you see on the side, and we created a pattern which was sort of unique to us, and then we made it unique to the space. And what we did was we sort of merged terracotta as a material, which, if you see from a craft perspective, is also very local and contextual to Kolkata as a city. So we used that, and then we layered the motifs and created a pattern which was very graphic yet so subtle in this space, and sort of played with the motifs to create something which was really captivating. So this is just a sketchy view of the entrance. So this wall that you see, it's like a capsule shape. So if I show you the plan, this capsule is what we have cladded the terracotta tile with, and that capsule had the pattern onto it. So this was the first touch point for the property that the guest would um, come in touch with. So you enter here and then you take a right, and that's the main entry. And within the capsule, we have the reception desk. So you can access the reception desk from the other side, which is the inside of the hotel. This is how this actually have been executed at site. So all the motives that you see, and we what we just did was we took a simple tile which has these fluted details, and the karigar basically they did the magic. They laid the tiles in the most beautiful manner, and we just played with the direction of these tiles. And this is what I was talking about, where this capsule sort of becomes the reception, and the pattern is sort of wrapped all around, and the guest could experience this. And the scale is also so big, though. In this space, when you're actually standing over here, you see the volume shift, you see there's a scale shift. Also, the scale of the pattern is quite big, so the person can also sort of interact with the craft here. This was another direction which we have heavily used in the same property, where we were thinking about different approaches for the flooring, and given that sari was a starting point, we just came across this reference, and what we liked about this was that it was quite modern, and just the beautiful use of two shades of color, which is black and white, and playing with the widths of the shape. That's what we picked from this image. Sorry, I have a really bad throat, so I might cough in between. But yeah, these are the rest of the spaces for the hotel, where we have simply played with terrazzo, which is also an ancient technique where they crush marble and then they use a cement mortar base. And now it is quite in, actually we use it heavily in a lot of places. It's sort of a timeless material at the moment, and we have used two shades of terrazzo here. One is black, slightly charcoal, and the other one was white. And then we have just played with the widths of the band of black and white that you're getting. So this was one of the corridor which takes you to the reception. This was the entrance of a specialty, and then this was the pattern of the room. Sorry. Now, talking about the impact of scale that a craft and an intervention can have. So, this is one of the image of Delhi district, where the graphics are like painted on the building, and the other image is actually uh, one of our project where we have done a ikat pattern on the facade using different colors of bricks. Again, the intervention of the craft is very different here, and the scale sort of is quite different. Just give me a second. Yeah, sorry. Now, talking about scale and making it much more intimate here, you can use a craft technique in a door handle. You can use it as a surface treatment on a table, or just a carving detail coming in on the edge of the table. The kind of upholstery that you choose can also have that layer of craft. And again, treatment you can use, sorry, textures, play with that, and that actually helps sort of layer the space with crafts. Coming onto the art of layering. So we we have talked about scale. Now, how do we layer the space with art? This is another example of the same project, where this table is sort of coming in on one of the rooms. Now, in Kolkata, you have these Ganjifa cards, which are really tiny cards of like 50 diameter. And they have goddesses painted on it. Sorry, give me a second, please. Sorry, I really would like to apologize. My throat is just not working.
That's all right, Zainab. You
Yeah.
take your
So
time.
we took the Ganjifa card here and sort of of course, we didn't want to use the card as is, but what we did was we just extrapolated the fact that it has some pattern onto it. And we use that as a design gesture on the tabletop. Now, given that the room has 100, the number of rooms in the hotel are 100, and doing that as a craft would be really expensive. So we just did a screen print of this sort of a pattern onto it and just added a 6 mm glass on top of it so that it doesn't get buggered over time. Now, had it been a residential property, then we would have looked at it slightly differently. The choice of material would have shifted here. So we also need to take a conscious decision while working with the craft, and also the kind of space that we are creating and the usability along with the budgets. The other sort of layering that we did was, of course, the furniture, where we've used wicker, which is also very popular in India, as woven wicker is quite prevalent these days. And then layering the space with cushions. Again, kantha is a threadwork technique that you will find in Kolkata. It is native to the region. And we use that. And again, black and white was something that we were working with as a very contemporary approach to a classical sort of black and white direction. So kantha was used here. Moving on to, again, this is one of the suites of the property where the scale sort of shifted inside the bedroom. The headboard, we thought, was a nice place to do this large graphic of thread work, which talks about the contours of the city. And then we worked with craftsperson. They basically worked on the graphic and stitched the whole fabric together. This is another sorry. Yeah, so this is another image of the same property where we used stained mirror work, which is quite popular in art deco buildings. And Kolkata, because of the location, honestly has all sorts of building, given that the Britishers sort of settled in Kolkata. So stained art work is also quite prevalent in was quite prevalent in the older days. So we again use motifs that were inspired from Jamdani sari, but use stained mirror craft as an artwork and sort of build something which was unique to this property. And we also layered the space with some black and white photographs of the cityscapes of Kolkata. So this is another project that currently I'm working on. It's we are readapting a Haveli, which is located in Jaipur, and making into a sort of a cultural center. So it houses some meeting rooms, space for living sort of a space for guests to sort of come in, and the extent of the property will have a farm stay and a restaurant, pool, and all those activity. But this Haveli actually just has a cafe. The first floor of the Haveli will have a studio which will be run by the client itself, and then they want to host TED Talks. They want to host a lot of shows related to art. So we are working on the existing structure, and our approach to it is to do minimal intervention and to take some steps which are much more sustainable. So we are not doing any kind of false ceiling. The selection of materials is also something that are native to Jaipur or Rajasthan. You're using lime plaster, you're not using anything which is epoxy or has chemicals in it. So this is the entrance space for this region, for this Haveli, sorry. And I'll just quickly walk you through the interventions that we have made, which are in context with the craft or the various techniques that Rajasthan has to offer. So there we wanted to do a water body in the welcome area, so sort of which also cools down. And we and in all the open spaces we want naturally, which we want to keep it naturally ventilated. There's no HVAC in these spaces, so so we have done this Bauli sort of a water feature which will cool the area as you enter. And we've taken inspiration from the Bauli that you see in Jaipur and across Rajasthan. Then we're also using relics on the facade of the Haveli. And we also sort of want to make a graphic on the ceiling which basically talks about the entire urban plan of the of this area where and the various locations of the farm stay and many other buildings that will be popping up. And because we wanted to keep the approach really sustainable, our uh, uh, our approach to the kind of seating we want is something that is traditional. The better that you see in Rajasthan is what we have used here. And again, the choice of fabric and all have been kept in mind. It will be cotton, something which is very breathable, using traditional bamboo chatai for blinds here. This is another room which is more like a informal meeting room. So again, using the traditional better sort of a seating we have given over here, and we just have layered the space with the block printing, which is quite prevalent in Rajasthan. So each room over here has a textile which is deriving the design of the space. For the flooring, we have used these tatami mats, which basically are jute mats. So the sound, I mean, it kills the sound. It also works acoustically, and then just a layer of craft. We'll have this. These mats will have a block printing border just to make it much more contextual. Sorry. Then this is one of the rooms inside the valley where there's this existing artwork, and they have done the thickery artwork on the ceiling, and it is very beautiful. So we want to retain that and sort of convert the space into a gallery so that whenever they want to host events here, this can lit up beautifully. So only the ceiling is the talking point here, while the rest of the shelf is light and neutral and just absent here with the artwork that's on the ceiling, and the artwork that will be put on the wall should be the talking point here. This is another room which is a living room. Here we did an interesting approach where we are using carpet on the ceiling. Now, given that it is a living sort of arrangement, and they will be hosting people over here, what is actually nice is the carpet will take care of the acoustics of the space. So they will play music here, if in case they are hosting. So there will be some sort of a noise, a commotion that will happen in the space, and the acoustic on the ceiling will take care of it. This was one of the outdoor areas where we plan to extend a canopy so that it becomes easier for people to sit in the evening and afternoon. So the idea again here was to do some sort of a print of a foliage on the underside of the canopy, so that also becomes this interesting gesture to look at, and it's not just a blank canvas. And then the choice of furniture that you see, the modas that you traditionally see in Rajasthan, we sort of want to use that as an inspiration, but make chairs which are much more comfortable. for the outdoors, and then how you're going to integrate the lamp with the fixed sofa that is on the other side. These are all things that have opportunity to play with craft here. This is the terrace of the same Haveli, and we want to use the terrace. As per the brief, we can. He said actually the client said that he might host people in here, so we have given a long bar counter which can get converted into a buffet ledge whenever they are hosting, and we have done a trellis so that it kind of shades the entire terrace, and then the heat absorption rate for the terrace and the spaces that are below it also kind of reduces here. And the tile that you see, the chevron tile that you see on the side, is something that is already there, and we would want to retain it. While the center pattern that you see is the intervention that we are making. And we wanted to do a pattern which was sort of inspired again from the Bauli. So you see a combination of white and yellow marble, but laid in a manner that it sort of represents a Bauli. And on the periphery, that in the elevation, we have done the ala wall. So this is basically to talk about. We took inspiration from an artwork we saw in one of the exhibitions where the person has had made a bauli here, and then we extrapolated the patterns and grid from it to sort of fit in our layout and the space we were getting. This is to basically talk about how we are imagining again. Uh, Traditionally, ala walls was used to create light in the space. We want to use the same gesture, but we have sort of elevated the experience of ala. We're doing a sheet metal which will be perforated, and you can put a diya wherever you are hosting. And when the space is not in use, you can use the light which is at the back to sort of create a wash of light so that people can move around. So again, simple gestures, using of traditional art and craft, and just elevating that, keeping it elevating that by keeping in mind the context and the use of these tasks that you need to plan for. That is very important because you can't just place craft in space um, without thinking about the usability. It's not just a piece of artwork that you are using, it has to do something to the space. It needs to add value, which is why keeping in mind the context is very important. Yeah, with that, I have almost covered all the points.
Mm, thank you for that, Zainab. The floor is now open to questions. Um, if any of you have any questions, you can put it in the Q&A box and then we'll sort of take it systematically so that we can answer all of your questions. But meanwhile, let me start by talking about something that has been so monumental to everything, to actually design and everything that is creative, which is talking about context. Just give me a moment. So how important is it to look at the context of the craft, look at the context of the region and your topography, how important and imperative it is in your process while designing for a client to look at context of the things that you're incorporating and also the context of the region and all of that.
Uh, so, See, it depends on project to project. I feel large scale project, which something like a hospitality project, is where you really need to define the context and sort of uh, build that layering with with everything. While a residential project might have, in usually our approach to residential project is where you can layer the space with craft, but it's more like you have traveled through the regions and sort of collected those pieces, and those pieces have certain values and attachments, and you layer your space with those pieces. So this approach to residential is slightly different than approach to commercial projects. But I do agree that in commercial project, we really have to keep in mind uh, that the craft that you're adding in this space will add a lot of contextual value to the project, and that is very important because a hotel in Rishikesh might look very different from a hotel in Kolkata or in Rajasthan, and that identity is very important for the project.
Right. Another thing that I want to sort of talk about is you and I both come from architecture background. So how far it is or how big of a leap it is from moving from architecture, and what is that shift in perspective that you need to have from moving to architecture or a non-design background to move into something that is interiors, or say interiors for a certain space, say hospitality or residence or something like that. So what is that shift that you sort of made?
Well, when I was practicing architecture, um, your my vision was, and I think most of the architects have this sort of an understanding where you look at the building from outside, you look at the relationship of the building with the next building or with the context which is outside the build. And while working on interiors, the approach is slightly different. Actually, it's very different, where it comes from touch points that the guest will enter and touch this. So it becomes much more tactile and personal experience driven. So the scale of the experience also shifts to rather than
Very
relationship between two
individualistic.
buildings to relationship between the person and the surface or the person and the space. So which sort of that shift actually I feel has made me a better architect, and it is very important to just understand when that shift has happened, and then to design a building from that perspective. What is the view a person gets when they're sitting in the living room is it's so important. But mostly we keep in mind that the placement of window should be sort of work basis the facade. So that is I feel the key, that shift that I felt when I moved from architecture to interior.
Hmm. Cool. So do we have no questions? If we have any questions, we can put it in the Q&A chat, Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. It looks like you've covered everything, Zainab. Do you also want to talk about what is it, what is it that a new young interior designer should do and should not do when they start their journey in this field?
uh I think first would be to really understand what you want to, because interiors is also, you have residences, there's retail, there's commercial. So what truly you want to work on, because the approach of working on these spaces is very different. So first, maybe explore what in interiors you want to do, and then read a lot about what's happening in the market and in the world, because I think that's very important. It will open your mind. Work with some great people, a great organizations, learn their way of working, and then maybe sort of slowly understand what your design thinking is and what your process is.
Right. So we already have some questions pouring in. Vinay is asking, there are numerous permutations available in terms of designing a surface area, with craft being one of the options. How do you choose or converge on a material of choice for a project?
Well, so when we work on a project, we work on narrative for the project. So if for example, if when we were working on the hotel in Kolkata, we there was a brief that was given to us that the client want to create a hotel which sort of has a nostalgic feeling to the club culture that Kolkata had. And we sort of took that brief and did a lot of research and concised on the fact that we want to create a contemporary space, but which has the colonial essence that Kolkata had. Now, when we read about Kolkata and colonial architecture, we knew that there was a lot of restrained use of color and checkerboard flooring was one of the main things that you see in a colonial building. So black and white was our color choices that we sort of fixed, and then we started looking at classical flooring patterns and how we can break that up. So your choice of material, the color of timber sort of came from the fact that we wanted to restrain the color palette to black and white. So that sort of comes in. And then if you see the property, the terracotta color that we want, we actually played with the terracotta color in the property where it comes in as accents in spaces. It sort of stands out, and we use the color and then we layer it with craft to to get that.
Right. I hope that answers your question, Vinay. Another question we have from Bhavna. They're asking, how do you think about the process of editing to avoid veering into kitsch while using crafts? It can look very gimmicky or I would say
Yes.
like
So,
relevant sometimes if not done right.
absolutely. I think the transitioning of craft uh, and making it something contemporary is really tough. Like when we were working with Jamdani, we sort of were creating patterns which was so complicated and were sort of looking messy. But I think what two things that really helps with this is first, know your material. When we were working with the terracotta tile, we knew, okay, we have one tile which has three set of flutes, and then we were restricted with horizontal and vertical direction, which sort of helped us reduce the motifs that we were capable of creating. And with that, we just restricted ourselves to one or two motifs and then sort of merge those motifs to create a pattern. So when you are translating a craft, just keep it simple. Keep it simple. Keep the process simple, and this will help you prevent in creating something which just does not work.
Right. I hope that answers your question, Bhavna. So Ranjita is asking about the interior design course. Ranjita, just to help you out, I'm putting the And Academy website in chat. You can check out our courses in interior design on the website. We offer a certificate course and a diploma course. The fee details are available on the website. The certificate course covers residential design as part of what we teach in the curriculum. And if you want to move into commercial spaces, um, interior design for cafes and offices, etc., you can also take up the diploma course. All of the details are available on the website. I hope that answers your question. If I will also ask our counseling team to sort of connect with you over call. So yeah. Vinay is asking a follow-up question. He's asking, are narratives possible for a residential project?
Absolutely. It totally depends on on your client. So, for example, if a client is an art collector, then my narrative could be that I want to create a visual art gallery for him, and then that gallery experience that you see would sort of help you design the spaces where how you layer your spaces with craft and art becomes important. So yeah, and like some of it could be, it also depends on sites. If someone is building a home in Chennai, so it could be tropical. contextual use of material, uh, use of textures. You can play with that, and all of that sort of derives your narrative.
I have another question that I sort of want to talk about is because you've worked in the residential interior design space, it is a it is a very, I would say, like it is so personal for somebody to own a house and to just like it is something of a responsibility to design such a big tactile thing for them. And it is there's like so much investment, emotional and nostalgic that everyone has. So breaking down the brief becomes really, really important to understand what is it that the person wants. And when clients come to you because they're so because this want of having a house or a house in a particular way has been built over such a long period of time, it comes out as overwhelming or like staggered or something that is very broad or like or an idea that is very vague. How do you sort of collect that and make it into a brief that is proper and then start working on that?
So first would be, I think, just send a questionnaire to your client on what kind of space they want to create, how they want to use the space, because it differs from person to person. And with the residential projects, one of the challenges is also that if you're making a 4 BHK, then you're designing a space for four different people, and their need and use of this space is very different. So to understand the need from all four of them becomes sort of difficult. So easiest way is send out a questionnaire to them, let them respond, and maybe then you can sit with them and you might have a couple of more questions, ask them, understand, ask them to share a visual board so you can understand what they want to create, and then sort of push them with multiple narrative options. Like, I also feel sometimes some clients do not understand the potential that their space has, and maybe just by sh- sharing one option which they want to create as a narrative direction, and then a couple more where you feel what you feel works best for the space, you sort of share with regards to images, and then you kind of align on which direction they want to go in. And again, I think layout also sort of drives a lot of the narrative that you want to do in a space. That's also very important. So when you work on a narrative, you also need to keep in mind what sort of a layout arrangement you want to put in place. Maybe have a discussion on that. Once you are aligned, then maybe move on to detailing the spaces further.
Right. Cool. I think we don't have any more questions. I would request the audience that if you have any more questions, I'll give you 2 minutes and then you can put those in. If not, then we've reached the end of the session. Zainab, do you have anything that you want to sort of share from your journey in interiors?
I think when I changed my field from architecture interior, I really started enjoying the various things that you do in a day when you look at different materials, the colors, then you play with textures and fabric. Like, my favorite part of this whole design process is when you actually see the material and you start selecting the fabrics and all of that. Uh, it is so graphic, and I feel it's so rewarding in some manner. Yeah, so uh, I really look forward to all our material discussions and meetings with the clients.
Cool. Thank you so much, Zainab, for doing this with us. Thank you for taking out the time. I know you're feeling not your best, and thank you for taking out the time on such a day when you're a little low health-wise. Oh, we have another question. Oh, Gulafsha is saying thanks, Zainab, for sharing your experience with us. It will be very helpful for us. Um, So thank you for taking out the time to do this with us. I also thank our audience members who have stuck around till the end of the webinar. If you have any queries, you can just contact us on the number that is on the website. You can check out our website. I will also put in a survey form that comes on your screen when the session is over. You can reach out to us through that. Yeah, with that, thank you, Zainab. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye. Good night.